All right, today we are opening a case file on one of Hell's most unusual figures. This is a demon whose power isn't about fire or torment, but about contracts, ink, and paperwork. We're talking about Baalberith, the Secretary of Damnation.
So I want you to just picture this for a second. What if Hell wasn't just, a pit of fire? What if it was a giant, meticulously organized bureaucracy? Think about it, a place with secretaries, notaries, and just endless archives. It's a weird thought, right? But it's absolutely key to understanding who we're talking about today.
Because right at the center of this infernal office space is Baalberith. And forget the pitchforks and horns. His tools are the pen and the ledger. He's the notary of pacts, the one who witnesses the deal when it goes down. And he's the archivist of sin, the guy who files it all away forever. So you have to be asking, how does a demon end up with a job description that sounds like a demonic paralegal? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go way back to his origin story. And it doesn't start in hell. It actually starts with him being worshipped as a god.
What happened here is a classic case of what historians call demonization. See, around 1200 BCE, Baalberith was a Canaanite god, the Lord of the Covenant, and he was all about making binding treaties. But as the worship of Yahweh became dominant, this other god got denounced as a false idol. Flash forward to the 1600s, and Christian demonologists completely rewrote his story. He wasn't just a false god anymore, he was a very, very real demon, whose entire specialty was twisting that holy idea of a covenant into something dark.
And this really shows you the heart of that twisted transformation. On one side, you have God's covenant, which is all about grace and faith. But on the other, you have the demonic pact, Baalberith's specialty. It's a dark mirror of the original. Just a cold, hard business transaction for fame or power or whatever, and the price is your soul. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of his job description. His day-to-day duties in hell boil down to two main things: setting up demonic pacts and, his other favorite pastime, encouraging blasphemy.
Now, it's really important to understand what blasphemy meant back then. We're not just talking about some crude language. It was seen as using words as a weapon, a full-on verbal assault against God and the entire divine order. So a demon who specialized in this, he was seen as attacking the very foundation of belief itself. And this is supposedly how you make that ultimate terrible deal. And just look at how formal it all is, almost like a legal proceeding. It starts with an initiation ritual. Then there's a negotiation over the terms. After that, the contract gets written up, usually signed in blood. Then, a blasphemous act seals the deal. And finally, the demon leaves its mark on you. Kind of like a receipt.
So where does Baalberith fit into all of this? He's the bureaucrat, making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. His whole job is to witness the signing, stamp it with his infernal seal of approval, and then file it away in Hell's archives, making sure that deal is binding forever. And believe it or not, this isn't just some myth. Baalberith has a historical paper trail. So let's take a look at his demonic resume and see where he pops up in some of history's most infamous books. When you look across all these different grimoires and old texts, a pretty consistent profile starts to take shape. He's always high-ranking, a duke or a prince. His job is always administrative, chief secretary, archivist, notary. He's often described as a soldier in red, riding a red horse, and his specialties are always crystal clear: blasphemy, pacts, and just generally causing chaos. Our first big case file is the Dictionnaire Infernal from 1818. This was basically a huge encyclopedia of demons, and it totally solidifies his role as the master of Hell's archives. It also mentions reports of him showing up during exorcisms in the 1500s. And then there's this weird little detail. Apparently, whenever he's around, horses just totally freak out. But maybe his most significant appearance comes from a famous possession case in 1611. An inquisitor, a guy named Sebastian Michaelis, claimed he got the entire demonic hierarchy straight from a demon possessing a nun. I mean, talk about first-hand testimony, right? In this account, Baalberith is ranked super high up, right below the big bosses like Beelzebub and Leviathan, and he's specifically called the Secretary and Keeper of Records. According to that same account, every demon has an opposing saint who works against them, and Baalberith's is Saint Barnabas. The symbolism here is just perfect. Barnabas' name literally means son of encouragement, and he's all about promoting faith and the true covenant.
He's basically the divine countersignature to every single one of Baalberith's damned contracts.
So what does this all mean? What does a bureaucratic demon like this really represent, and why is a figure like this, well, still kind of fascinating today?
Well, modern scholars don't see Baalberith as a literal demon, of course. They see him as a symbol, a reflection of our deepest anxieties. From one angle, he represents the fear people had about the growing power of written contracts and legal systems. Psychologically, you could say he's just a projection of our own guilt over all the little moral compromises we make every day.
This quote really just hits the nail on the head. Think about it. Every single time we rationalize a bad choice, every time we make a shady compromise for our own benefit, we are, in a way, drafting a little contract, a deal with ourselves that Baalberith would be more than happy to notarize and file away.
So, at the end of the day, the real terror a figure like Baalberith inspires isn't really about a devil with horns. It's about a much more human fear: accountability. It's that nagging anxiety that all our little bargains, all our quiet compromises are being recorded somewhere, and that one day, the bill is going to come due.
And all of this leads to a pretty chilling final question for our world right now. In this age of permanent data, where every click, every purchase, every choice is logged on some massive server, have we accidentally created our own modern digital version of Hell's Archives? Are we all, right now, signing digital contracts that we'll one day wish we could take back?